everybody. Welcome to Time Camp. It is Signum Academy's discussion group for A Wrinkle in Time. We've got activities, we've got questions, we've got science. I'm Sparrow Alden. I'm so excited to meet you. I am about to share my screen. And then, let us quickly share the results of our poll. People either want to go a little bit back in time, or we're happy when we are, but it's a good skill to have in your back pocket just in case, right? Just in case you need it. I'm going to be curious to find out why people wanted to go back a little bit in time, if there's something specific you'd like to go back and witness. All right, let me hide those results. Let me click back here, and it is time to have fun. As I said, I am. Yes. First, I'm going to tell you about my friend Sharon Hoff. She is in Arizona, and she's my technical helper and backup. She is going to organize your questions and your comments in such a way that I'll be able to see them on my screen as you guys type them in. And she's my really good friend. She loves this book as much as I do. As I said, my name is Sparrow, and I am broadcasting from New Hampshire today. Some days I will be in Vermont. I'll let you know. And I'm reading with you. Of course, we've all tried to read the book before camp started. In fact, I read this book the first time about 44 years ago. About 44 years ago, which is wonderful. And I have loved it that long. It's a special book. It's a powerful book. And every single person who enjoys this book gets something different and special out of it. So I'm looking forward to finding what that is for you. So I'm going to be your discussionista, leading a little discussion group. You guys are free to comment. And one of the ways to get your voices heard in this adventure is through the email address at the bottom of your screen. camp@signumu.org will be read by Sharon. See, I told you she was wonderful. And she'll organize those questions. And if you've got a question about something coming up or something going a little bit backwards, remember, we can go forward and back in time in this camp, or a comment, or even a photo of something you've done in your group together sessions, please send them on in. We'd love to know. We'd love to answer those questions, show your photos. And the other thing that the email is great for, there are wonderful people who have said, yes, I'd be happy to pay for the computer server time that you guys use on Time Camp. And then those wonderful people ask stuff like, so how many kids had fun at Time Camp? And if you write to camp@signumu.org, then we have a kind of number close enough to tell them. I've got a question from Jennifer R., who says, are we reading the book? And there are two answers to that, yes and yes. I read the book many years ago and then several times since then. Some folks have already read the book to get ready for Time Camp. And if you haven't read it yet, please enjoy this book in the evenings between our camp sessions. Today, I want to talk about chapter 1 with Mrs. Watson. If you have not read it yet, that's fine. Don't worry. Get the book from your library or from your bookshelves or wherever your book is. We will enjoy that. And what was the other one? Oh, and yes, many of us have read it beforehand. Of course, I read it beforehand because I'm going to be showing you the slides with stuff on it. Let's see what's on the next slide. I want to test that everyone knows how to use this GoToWebinar technology. So I said, I can tell that Jennifer R. already does because she sent in a question. I would like other folks to send in an answer to maybe If you're in a group and using the activity packet, what kinds of agreements did you make among yourselves for how you're going to be together? You might send in, why did we make agreements? Send some kind of answer to Sharon, or even, it's just me alone enjoying the book. Send that into Sharon so she knows that when you've got a question, you're going to be able to ask. All right, I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do that, and Sharon will send me a message telling me that she's got people writing in or not writing in, and then maybe we can help you through the Camp at Signum U email address to get that working the way you want it to. I'm not very good at waiting, so I'm being very, very quiet. Jubilee says, hey. Oh, other people are typing in. Good. I'm glad that some of you have got that down. Never hesitate to type in the comment box, or the question box, I'm sorry. The question box. Never hesitate to type something in. Sharon will see it, she'll organize it, and she'll send it to me. Because maybe two people in two different places are having a similar idea. She'll concatenate them into one comment or question. She's very good at that. All right, our bodies and minds ready? Here's what I want to do to get started. Today we're going to do wrist stretches. All right, this is the wrist that's getting stretched first. The other hand, I'm going to gently fold a little bit. Stretching is never to hurting. Stretching is to gently fold the other hand. Now we're gently opening up the first wrist and open up the second wrist. I don't know about you, but I spend a lot of each day at a computer using it in just my hands in just one position. So these stretches are really good for maintaining the health of your hands. I'm also a knitter, so my hands are in a similar position for my knitting time. All right, fingers toward me. Drop your thumb down. You see how the palm of your hand is facing your elbow? Keep the palm facing your elbow as you bring your wrist into your body. That's a twist in a different direction, a stretching twist. Fingers toward me. Drop the thumb down. Keep looking that palm to the side. Bring the wrist in. Awesome. Shake them up. Oh, I bet my laptop jiggled on that. That was pretty funny. Jennifer R. says hi. And oh, there are 9 people there at the library that Natalie is typing in for. Hi, 9 people at the library. That's great. Alrighty. Our minds ready? Nice deep breath. My mind is ready. In your activity packet, we suggested that some people who like to track details might pick a specific thing to keep track of. Some people who like to make lists might pick something to make lists of, like what colors are mentioned, what places are mentioned. And some of you might be cartographers extraordinaire, ready to make the maps of the places we read about in this story. So if you have one of those jobs, get your pencil, we're ready to go. As we read through, I've got an idea that we can follow threads through a whole book from the beginning to the end and see something that was in the author's mind or the author's heart that they carried as an important part of the story. So we're going to start with just one thread. We'll probably add a few as we go. Our first thread, what is science? We know that Meg's parents are scientists, and it turns out science is really important in this book. I think that science is 2 different things. Can you guys type in your question box some of the things that science is in your understanding? I'm going to wait here and I'm going to hold the number 2 up. Oh, I also have a hi from Jennifer R. That's great. Thank you. Science is definitely a subject in school. Yes, thank you for that. Sometimes there are science divided up into maybe biology, geology, uh, physics, chemistry. Love chemistry, always got some good explosions going. So, yes, science is an academic discipline, and they all kind of relate to each other. And I'm thinking of a second thing that is. Natalie tells us that one of the folks there at the library really doesn't care for science. And I'm guessing that Haber at the library doesn't like science classes. Because the second thing that science is, which is under all those classes, but it's a much more important and foundational thing, science is a way to think. Yeah, there are classes in school. But I want you to also hold that science is a way to think idea. It's too many things for Jennifer R. to type, whose nickname is Izzy. Izzy, thank you for typing that. I was just looking at the note from Sharon. Yes, it is an awful lot of things, both as a school subject and as a way of thinking. Hold that in your head. There's paleontology, there's biochemistry, there's physical chemistry, a lot of things. Alrighty, what do we got? Here's how our book opens. It was a dark and stormy night. In her attic bedroom, Margaret Murray, wrapped in an old patchwork quilt, sat on the foot of her bed and watched the trees tossing in the frenzied lashing of the wind. Behind the trees, clouds scudded frantically across the sky. Every few moments, the moon ripped through them, creating wraith-like shadows that raced along the ground. The house shook. Wow. I've got more of your thoughts on science, something Ruthie loves, the study of natural phenomena, and something that Izzy loves. I agree with all of you. Also, science has some basic questions, and this is science the way of thinking, okay? Number one, what do you observe? And that's with all of your senses: see, hear, feel, smell, taste. I want to look at the opening of the book again and ask you, on the most simple level, what do you observe with your senses? Ready? And get ready to send answers in, okay? It was a dark and stormy night. In her attic bedroom, Margaret Murray, wrapped in an old patchwork quilt, sat on the foot of her bed and watched the trees tossing in the frenzied lashing of the wind. Behind the trees, clouds scudded frantically across the sky. Every few moments, the moon ripped through them, creating wraith-like shadows that raced along the ground. The house shook. Izzy, yeah, it's dark. So when the moon rips through the clouds, that suddenly is a change. I've got this feeling of suddenness that goes with the darkness. The moonlight comes through, and the shadows of the clouds are racing along. Yes, the patchwork quilt. It's full of colors, maybe different textures. There are going to be shapes on the different patches of the quilt. It's wrapped around. Not only do I see the colors, I kind of feel the warmth and the contact. Izzy's pointing to the moon, just as I had mentioned. Oh, I'm wearing my little moon necklace today, so that works. The moon is clearly out and it's bright. It's not a new moon. It's kind of near the full moon. And we got anything else coming in? Is there anything that you can smell or taste or feel in all these descriptive words? There are a lot of descriptive words. Are there any Beck? Yes, I would be scared. That is, you're observing all these things and drawing a conclusion. The house shook. I would be scared too, because, that's houses aren't supposed to shake. They're supposed to be the safe place to go, right? There's a storm. It's not just windy out. Yeah, some days it's just windy out. But you know what? It's a wind that is lashing in a frenzied manner. Wow. In just 3 short paragraphs, Mrs. L'Engle gave us this intense visual and felt, remember the quilt image and the shaking. And I'm even hearing the wind. She is impinging on a lot of senses. I'm so excited. Okay. It's one of the best book openings I've ever read. Oh, Jennifer M. is reminding us, for sight, we've got darkness and the trees and the moon. You can see the quilt. She's feeling the quilt, the shaking of the house. And Beck tells us that his house shakes as well. Wow. Okay. Now, some folks, I might say he or she, and I will be incorrect. Please don't hesitate to correct me, or I'll just start calling everyone they. That's okay. Ready? What do we got next? She wasn't usually afraid of weather. It's not just the weather, she thought. It's the weather on top of everything else. On top of me. On top of Meg Murray doing everything wrong. School. School was all wrong. She'd been dropped down to the lowest section in her grade. That morning, one of her teachers had said crossly, "Really, Meg, I don't understand how a child with parents as brilliant as yours are supposed to be can be such a poor student. If you don't manage to do a little better, you'll have to stay back next year." During lunch, she'd roughhouse a little to try to make herself feel better, and one of the girls said scornfully, "After all, Meg, we aren't grammar school kids anymore. Why do you always act like such a baby?" And on the way home from school, walking up the road with her arms full of books, one of the boys had said something about her dumb baby brother. At this, she had thrown the books on the side of the road and tackled him with every ounce of strength she had, and arrived home with her blouse torn and a big bruise under one eye. Wow. I have a great observation from the very opening from Jennifer M. And we're going to carry this observation of hers into this one. That there's a combination of the cozy quilt and a scary scene on the outside. Fear of how the storm could damage the house, excuse me. But that's not all that was going wrong for Meg today. All right, while you guys are sending in observations from this passage, I'm going to tell you one of the coolest things I have ever heard about this book. I ran into a gal, a neighbor of mine, who's not very good at reading. Didn't like to read, didn't like school, but knew that reading is good for her. She can learn a lot, she can be more active in society, and so she was encouraged to read A Wrinkle in Time. She got to that paragraph, the 4th paragraph, on top of me, on top of Meg Murray doing everything wrong. School was all wrong. And this young woman who had had trouble with reading and, I have to do what they make me say, all her life, suddenly went, "That's me! She's writing about me!" Madeline L'Engle wrote this book in 1960s, and she reached out and helped this young woman in 2018 to feel seen and recognized and accepted and to want to read the book. That's real time travel, right? I've got some observations. I don't have observations yet. I'm sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. That was exciting. My observations from this passage, all the people who talked to Meg, the teacher who said something crossly, and the girl who talked to Meg scornfully, did they say anything that would make Meg feel better? Did they say anything helpful? Did they say anything just steady and stable so Meg knew they could count on her? I don't think so. Emmy says that Meg is definitely protective of Charles Wallace. Yes, that's a huge observation. Someone said something about her dumb baby brother, and all that protective energy came out of her. She threw down the books and she got into a fight. So she had some anger, but the anger came from a protective feeling. Oh, Jubilee noticed the sensation, the feeling sensation of having your arms full of books. They're heavy. If they're hardbound, they've got edges. We are being good scientists. We're noticing details from the physical world. Well done. Izzy is saying things are rough, things are sad. She is observing. Meg was walking. The books were thrown down. She's observing these very sensation-y words. I love that. I love, says Jennifer M., how true to life the portrayal of Meg's feelings is. She doesn't see each thing separately. She has these individual things go wrong and she generalizes it into a huge, overwhelming bundle of trouble. Jennifer, that was really observant of you. And I'm going to make you in charge of watching where Meg sees a thing and generalizes. Okay, I want you to send up a flare because that's going to be another one of her threads. She takes it personally. Why was this happening to me? Everything happens to me. And you're right, that is a very real way for people to think, especially someone who's about, what is she, about 14? She's in ninth grade. She's 14 or 15. And when you're like a million years old like me, you have kind of a bigger perspective. But when you're 14 or 15, you are figuring out what you're doing, why you're doing it, and your focus is on, I'm going to control myself and move toward my goals and then meet other people. So it's absolutely accurate. Really good observation, Jennifer. Plus, people try to minimize Meg's experiences and feelings and don't recognize her legitimate ideas, strengths, and potential. Jennifer, you're absolutely right. Oh, and is that you, Izzy? That's me? These things go wrong? Okay. You are going to love every page of this book because this wonderful character is, like Jennifer says, full of ideas, strengths, and potential that doesn't show in a normal school. We get a little glimpse in her life. We see what she is like and that her parents are very bright. Yes, that's a good observation of the passage. They're supposed to be smart and intelligent. Let's see what we learn next. Whoop. Click on the, oh, all right. As scientists, did I skip a, oh, what did you observe? Very good. And what did your observations lead you to wonder or infer? We had that she is generalizing, that we know a little bit about her life and we got to feel, wow, she's like me, and that people frequently minimize her experiences and feelings. Yeah, very good. And I was going to ask, what do you recognize that's more complex than just perception? We got that she is very emotional and she feels things really intensely. It doesn't say anywhere there that she feels things really intensely, but it says she heard someone insult her brother and she reacted in this way that is very intense. All right, you got a glimpse at a photo here. And I'm using this very famous photograph to talk about observing as scientists. We've got to observe accurately. We use our experiences, maybe things we've learned, maybe things we've read, things we've experienced directly, and our reason to make inferences as we're already practicing. We make hypotheses about the patterns in the stuff we observe. This is a really famous photograph from a very complex event in human history. This took place in China roughly 20 years ago. And we are perfectly capable of telling from just one photograph who in this picture is the bully and who is vulnerable. This is a real picture in world history. Can you tell who's power up and who's power down? Bella has this great observation. Why tanks? Yeah, the soldiers in those tanks are in the position of power, and we observe this one young man standing in front of the tanks, and he's someone completely powerless in this situation. But he's standing up in front of the tanks. Does anyone have an inference about this one young man? Your instincts are correct. Yeah, thank you so much. Izzy, you got it. This one young man was incredibly brave to stand up in the face of all that ability to do you harm and stand peacefully is bravery. Okay, something you want to know about me, I start crying like all the time. So there we are. It makes me start crying. There we go. Let's see what I've got on the next slide. A delinquent. That's what I am, she thought grimly. This is after she was in the fight. That's what Lily's saying next. Not mother. Them. Everybody else. I wish father... But it was still not possible to think about her father without the danger of tears. Only her mother could talk about him in a natural way, saying, when your father gets back. Gets back from where? And when? Surely her mother must know what people were saying. Must be aware of the smugly vicious gossip. Surely it must hurt her as it did Meg. But if it did, she gave no outward sign. Nothing ruffled the serenity of her expression. Why can't I hide it too? Meg thought. Why do I have to always show everything? I've got some beautiful observations about the young man in front of tanks. Courageous. Feels he must stand up for his convictions. And might feel like he's got nothing to lose. Really brave. All these words coming in for me. Yeah. All right. Is Meg feeling brave yet? I don't think she's got enough life experience to feel brave, except when it's her brother who's being insulted and put down by people, being made smaller. That makes her brave. Isn't that interesting? A protective feeling. We know exactly where she is emotionally. Her father must have been really special, like her hero, says Jubilee. And she's saying, I wish father could do something about it. There's an in my head an inference that the father could help her through this difficult situation. Interesting to me that we're hearing Meg's thoughts inside her head, thinking about her mother talking in a natural way. When he gets back from where and when? Surely she must know they're saying, must be aware of the gossip. Surely it must hurt her as it did Meg. We've already talked about Meg having big emotions, right? She has these powerful responses to things. And she wonders, doesn't her mother feel it just as intensely as she does? Maybe her mother, with more years of life experience, does not feel it as intensely. Maybe her mother has more knowledge about what's going on, so she feels confident about the father coming back. We don't know that yet. Nothing ruffled the serenity of Meg's mother's expression. Meg is hurt. You got it. She's in pain, and she wishes she could hide it too. She wishes she were like her mother in being serene in her expression all the time. Why do I always have to show everything? All right, let's see what's next. Oh, there's a reference in a couple of places to the fluffy gray kitten. The fluffy gray kitten seems not to do anything else in the story, but I thought we'd better have a picture of a fluffy gray kitten. And if you don't know the fluffy gray kitten's name, maybe when you're going to sleep tonight, you will make up a name for the fluffy gray kitten. Okay, great. We know Meg doesn't know who her father is, and when he'll return, she might even be wondering about the whole situation. That was an observation from Jubilee. So Meg feels kind of in the dark about this. And when you don't have knowledge, that can be kind of scary too, and not steady. You don't have a good foundation. Interesting. Okay, happy gratuitous gray kitten. And feel free to tell Sharon what you would like the kitten to be named. How could they sleep all day on the radio? There'd been hurricane warnings. How could they leave her up in the attic in the rickety brass bed, knowing that the roof might be blown right off the house, and she tossed out into the wild night sky to land who knows where? Her shivering grew uncontrollable. Keep sending in observations and answers to these. What might we infer about Meg from that? We've already made good guesses at her personality. She has intense emotional responses. She feels like some important stuff, like where's her father? Why isn't he at home helping me through life's difficult things? Because she doesn't know, so she feels a little unstable, unsteady on her feet. I've got more sensations in this passage, don't you? All day on the radio. Okay, listen to the radio. So now I know not only we're in a place where there's school, we're in a time in the 20th century because there's radios. It's hurricane warnings. Well, I live in the Northern Hemisphere, and hurricane season is kind of August through October, maybe November. Okay, so now I've got a picture of where we are in the year. How could they leave her up in the attic? Oh, now we know she's in the attic. In a rickety brass bed. I could kind of hear it shaking as you sit down and it all creaks. Now I've got a sound. I could see the brass bed, knowing that the roof might be blown right off the house. I haven't been in a lot of hurricanes, like really right in there, Florida hurricanes. But wow, would I be startled to be worried that the roof was about to come off the house. And she would be tossed out into the wild night sky to land who knows where. So she could be down in the basement. So she might, that very emotional response to things, I think, is in play. We see how worried she is by something that's not really worrying the rest of her family. They seem to be sound asleep. She's definitely fearful right now, Jubilee. And I think when there's something a little bit to worry about, her mind kind of seizes on it and is more scared than strictly necessary. All right. Meg thinks no one cares that she's in the attic room or if she is tossed out by the storm raging outside, that no one cares. We know this far in the story that she's got a baby brother, whom she's very protective of, and a mother who sounds really great. The mother won't tease her about any of the stuff going on at school. But she still feels they're not worried about me. So she's really not feeling secure right now. Okay, I've popped up the words a character braid on the screen because I want you guys to take part in an experiment that I thought of. An experiment is a way of science thinking. And yeah, you might go to school and they'll say, now we'll do an experiment and we'll follow these steps. And usually that's a very hands-on way to learn the idea that is important at the next step of that class. But we can do experiments anytime we like, right? All I need is to observe, get an idea about what I think is going on, and poke the situation a little bit to see if I cause a change. Now, most situations you don't want to literally poke with your finger. But here's the idea that I had. I observe that when I read, I am intrigued by the way that the characters, oh, my screen is moving a little bit. That's very exciting. I am intrigued by the way that characters interact with each other. In fact, I heard a speaker named Professor Serena Higgins do this great presentation on how when you see which characters interact, whole new levels of understanding the book comes out. So I thought, how can we see, like literally draw, make, build a thing in front of us about how characters interact? So I have this idea. So here's my experiment. The question of the experiment. Every experiment must have a good question. Thank you. The question is, does it help me understand or not? Very simple question. Understand better or not? How the characters interact if I make a physical prop that shows me the interactions of the characters. Okay, so what I did is get some ribbons and I attached them to a safety pin. I'm going to pin the safety pin to me so I don't lose the ribbons. And when characters interact or have a scene together, I'm going to twist their ribbons around each other. I've chosen maroon for Meg, and then as more characters join in, we'll add their colors to the kind of braid that we're making. All right, so ready to do this experiment. And in a few days, we'll say, did this help us? Or did this not really help us? Here we go. I'll make myself some cocoa, she decided. That'll cheer me up. And if the roof blows off, at least I will go with it. Sounds like she's calming down a little bit. In the kitchen, a light was already on, and Charles Wallace was sitting at the table, drinking milk and eating bread and jam. He looked very small and vulnerable, sitting there alone in the big old-fashioned kitchen, a blond little boy in faded blue Dr. Denton's, his feet swinging a good 6 inches above the floor. Well, I've got this bright green for Charles Wallace. So for this scene, I'm going to have their colors wrap around each other. And I'm at the beginning, so I'm going to kind of double wrap, so I'm sure they're secure. All right. This might totally fall apart. I don't know. We've got to do experiments if we're going to be scientists, right? Any observations in here? In particular, I notice he looked very small and vulnerable. What are your clues from the words that he looks vulnerable or small? Take a look at the words. Exactly what do you see? What are the words? While you're typing that, I'm going to comment that after having a big emotional reaction to maybe the roof will blow off, then Meg calmed herself down with Coco. All right, fine. Then if the roof blows off, at least I'll be in the kitchen. So it's not that she's always really emotional. She's got to feel it and then boom. Oh, Izzy, I'm saying in the words in the paragraph, he looked very small and vulnerable. Then it goes on, what are the images that contribute to the small and vulnerable feelings that we can see as if we look in our mind movie at what's going on? For example, the kitchen was not just a kitchen. It was big and old-fashioned, like with those giant sinks and stuff. So the bigger that the kitchen is, the smaller Charles Wallace looks. He's a blonde little boy. See, little, she uses the little again. In faded blue Dr. Denton's. Yep, his feet, that's it. Exactly. His feet are swinging because they don't reach all the way to the floor. He's this little kid. You guys might not know what Dr. Denton's are. That's a kind of pajamas, like pajamas with feet on them. Okay. So he's wearing his feetsies pajamas. His legs can't feet reach the floor. He's all alone. He's wearing pajamas. He's this little guy. Jennifer, good observations. Nice job, guys. Oh, remember Fortinbras? He is a mix of Llewellyn setter and greyhound, maybe. And this was the closest I could find to a picture of what that might look like. He's got that tall, lean greyhound look, but a slightly fluffy kind of hunting dog Llewellyn setter look. That's my guess at what Fortinbras looks like. And for trivia, I love this. I love when you can take a word and break it into parts and know more about what it means. Fort means strong and bras means arm. This is on the little part of my arm, so it's a bracelet. It's a bracelet. Old-fashioned word, meaning the little thing that goes on the little part of your arm. So bras, the strong part. Fortinbras, he has a strong arm. Ooh, Charles Wallace is alone in the big kitchen wearing faded blue Dr. Dens, his feet swinging 6 inches off the ground. Jennifer S., that is exactly the phrase that L'Engle uses to communicate that smallness, vulnerability to us. Gorgeous work. How did Charles Wallace always know about her? How could he always tell? He never knew or seemed to care what Dennis or Sandy were thinking. It was his mother's mind and Meg's that he probed with frightening accuracy. So Meg is starting to pose questions, right? What is it about my little brother? Wow. Alrighty. It is time to talk about sandwiches. Number 1, please feel free to send us your favorite sandwiches. And did anyone notice anything strange about all the different kinds of sandwiches that come up in the next scene? Charles Wallace's was very simple. Slices of bread, jam, it might have been raspberry, strawberry, grape, who knows. Meg and Charles Wallace's mother got liverwurst and cream cheese. Interesting. Jubilee likes a ham and cheese sandwich. Awesome, Jubilee. That sounds delicious. Meg got lettuce and tomato, and in the description of Charles Wallace making it, got onion salt on it. Salad sandwich. Izzy, that is in fact my older kid's favorite sandwich. And what do you want? Cheese and leaves. Okay. Ooh, hummus. We get this. With lots of vegetables, avocados, and Greek olives. Okay. Jennifer, fabulous sandwich recipe. What kind of sandwich did the other character who you know is in here, Mrs. Watson, get? She got a tuna fish salad. And I'm going to tell, there was cocoa to drink, yay. Real good old-fashioned cocoa with the milk heated up. None of this just add water stuff. And apparently there's also caviar somewhere in the kitchen, but they were hiding it. Anyway, what I was really fascinated by all the sandwiches is, I don't know about your house, but if I get up in the middle of the night and I'm making myself bread and jam, I am perfectly willing to make anyone else who gets up bread and jam. But Charles Wallace was happy to do a specific different sandwich for his mother and for Meg, and then somehow Meg found herself making a different sandwich for Mrs. Whatsit. How strange that all these ingredients had to get out to make 4 different kinds of sandwiches. I just think that's a little bit funny. Oh, my favorite sandwich? I am loving the hummus with vegetables, avocados, and Greek olives, and I think I would layer on some feta cheese. Love cheese. Had a great BLT yesterday, bacon, lettuce, and tomato. Gonna have to think about what's my favorite sandwich. And Sharon, if you want to tell us what your favorite sandwich is too, we would love to know. Okay? Awesome. Oh, adorable thing. Some friends of mine who are about 9 years old at a summer camp, there was a masquerade ball, 4 friends. They came as bread, peanut butter, jelly, and bread. So, okay, peanut butter and jelly sandwich for a costume. Sharon is having trouble deciding what her favorite sandwich is. All right, Sharon, I'm afraid I have to give you homework, is to think about your favorite sandwich. All right. Oh, at the library, Haber has likes grilled cheese with tuna. I have never had that. Ruthie likes cheese and bologna. Very classic. Noah likes salami or bologna, that salty taste, right? Adam likes a nice turkey sandwich. You can dress that up so many different ways. And Emmy, seafood salad with a little vinegar sandwich. Oh, delicious. It looks to me like Izzy, loves cheese sandwiches. Sometimes they're toasted or grilled. Sometimes they're cold. So many different kinds of cheese to have too. Thank you for letting me know that. Don't worry about Charles Wallace, Meg, her father had once told her. Meg remembered it very clearly because it was shortly before he went away. There's nothing the matter with his mind. He just does things in his own way and in his own time. Interesting. If you're someone who likes making lists, notice who might be tracking words about time, Charles Wallace does things in his own time. I like that. I don't know what's going to happen to it. Let's watch that. Oh, and Sharon is now very hungry and would like to have a sandwich. So we have about 15 minutes to go, Sharon. Don't worry. And then we'll have a delicious sandwich for our lunches. Okay. Let's be exclusive, Charles Wallace said. That's my new word for the day. Impressive, isn't it? Prodigious, Mrs. Murray said. How old is Charles Wallace? He's what, 5? He just said, let's be exclusive. And he's in the practice of coming up with a new word every day, of learning and using a new word every day. Wow. Exclusive, 3 syllables. I can't go there before coffee. You are all too young for coffee, except for the librarian, Natalie. Okay. And Mrs. Murray answered him with prodigious, which means good in a sort of positive outcome way, and everyone is happy that you've done such a thing. That was prodigious. It's a pretty big word for a 5-year-old. I didn't use it at age 5 or understand it at age 5. Don't know about y'all, but I love that they play with words. Okay, if anyone's being a tracker of new words, and you were not familiar with exclusive, probably everyone knew exclusive, or prodigious before then, jot it down in your new word department or page or app on your phone, whatever you got. Izzy really likes Charles Wallace. Jubilee says 5 or 6. Beck says 7. And I forget what we were counting. Prodigious also means lots of it. Nice. This was grand. This was great. There was a lot. What a great, big, rich, interesting word that is. What were we counting? Because I got some number answers. 5 or 6 or 7. Was that sandwiches? Someone fill me in a minute because I got lost. Jennifer observes, I think it's interesting that Meg has so many insecurities about herself and her differences, but Charles Wallace is really confident. He accepts himself. He thinks his differences, no big deal. He is definitely smart, is he? I agree. And he's young and he's using words above his age. Oh, maybe that has something to do with Charles has his own time. He will do things in his own time. Fascinating. All right. Meg knelt at her mother's feet. The warmth and light of the kitchen had relaxed her. There's a sensation. Relaxed from warmth and light, which is the opposite of the wind and the shaking and the dark. Her attic fears were gone. The cocoa steamed fragrantly. Oh yes, age. Thank you so much, Izzy. So he's kind of 6-ish, maybe 5. All right. Thank you for your observations. Geraniums bloomed on the windowsills, and there was a bouquet of tiny yellow chrysanthemums in the center of the table. The curtains, red with a blue and green geometrical pattern, were drawn, means closed, and seemed to reflect their cheerfulness throughout the room. The furnace purred like a great sleepy animal, kind of like the kitten, right? Only giant. The lights glowed with a steady radiance. Now we've got steadiness instead of shaking. Outside, alone in the dark, the wind still battered against the house. But the angry power that had frightened Meg while she was alone in the attic was subdued by the familiar comfort of the kitchen. Underneath Mrs. Murray's chair, Fortinbras let out a contented sigh. Ah, we have someone who is 7 who's here with us today. That is so exciting to know. Thank you. I see that we've got more of the chapter to get through and only 10 minutes. So I'm going to let you guys, especially you list makers, pick out all the different colors that are being used in that one paragraph. We just had darkness and white moonlight upstairs when she was scared. In this place of comfort, there are colors. You don't know the meaning of moderation, do you, my darling? Mrs. Murray asked. A happy medium is something I wonder if you'll ever learn. Because Meg has all these feelings, and then they settle into this comfort in the kitchen. And she was frightened, and it came back down. And she was fiercely protective of Charles Wallace, and it came back down. And it seems like Mrs. Murray is never ruffled or changed by things. Interesting. Keep that in your head. A happy medium is something I wonder if you'll ever learn. And then who came in? Oh, yeah. One of the coolest entrances in all of literature, Mrs. Whatsit. Wild nights are my glory, she said. You know what? That's not much of a happy medium. Happy medium, I'm unruffled, something happens, it rolls off me. But Mrs. Whatsit is out in the hurricane, saying wild nights are my glory. They feel so good. Jennifer, you got it. Yellow, red, green, blue makes the colorful, welcoming scene. Hold on to those ideas. Let's see if black and white versus colorful scenes are scarier or cozier. That's an interesting idea. You know what I noticed? Meg was really feeling the storm. The house was shaking, and the wind and the dark, but then the moonlight and all these things were wild. There was the frenetic tearing at the clouds, and it made her feel scared. The exact same storm, the exact same circumstances made Mrs. Whatsit go, wow, this is glorious. Fascinating. All right, let's take a look at the character brain. Oh, the dog is lying on the other end of the pillow. Okay. So, Meg and Charles Wallace have interacted. And then in came Mother. I chose this ribbon with horses on it to be Mother. And so she talked to each of them separately. So I'm going to make her go around Charles Wallace and then around Meg. This might just turn into a tangle. We'll find out. And then in came Mrs. Whatsit, who spoke to little Charlesy. So she knew him personally. And she said, oh, she spoke to little Meg. And then at the end, she says something personal to Mrs. Murray. Interesting. This could be an experiment that just makes a mess. That's okay. You learned something. I shall just sit down for a moment and pop on my boots, and then I'll be on my way. Speaking of ways, Pet, by the way, there is such a thing as a tesseract. Mrs. Murray went very white, and with one hand reached backward and clutched at a chair for support. Her voice trembled. What did you say? Mrs. Whatsit tugged at her second boot. I said, she grunted, shoving her foot down in, that there is, shoved, such a thing, shoved, as a tesseract. Her foot went down into the boot, and grabbing shawls, scarves, and hat, she hustled out the door. Tesseracts are real and right, says Bella. That is, this very homey, comforting person has talked about tesseracts in a familiar and non-hysterical way, even though Mrs. Murray, who is otherwise perfectly calm when life throws her a curveball, she has suddenly went white and with one hand reached backward and clutched at a chair for support, like she felt a little faint. Intriguing. So to her, this must be really important. All right, let's wrap it up. Does anyone have a last word or two that they want to share? How did you, who are in a group, like you folks at the library, how did you do in taking turns and in having just one person do the typing? Did that work out okay? Let Sharon know through the question box. Oh, you got it, Bella. I'm not going to say that yet, because it's coming in a really soon chapter, so that we'll all explore it at the same time. Did you have fun? I had fun. I had so much fun. I'm kind of tangled up in ribbon now, but that's okay. And tomorrow it's going to be Sharon again and me, and we will talk about chapter 2, Mrs. Who. If you've not read it before, take the time to read it tonight. I'm going to be reviewing it tonight. And if it's not a night to read it, that's fine. We will still get all the discussion we need. Izzy loves this book. Natalie's observing that Tesseract must be such a big idea because it makes an observable reaction in Meg's mom. It must be huge, especially personally to her. They say yes. Natalie says that the library group feels like they cooperated really well. I'm so glad to hear that, library group. You go, be book people. And I have one more thought to share. I think I have like 30 seconds left or something. I wonder what my thought was. Perhaps it will come back tomorrow. I'm very lucky. I loved being here. I'm going to be reading tonight. I hope that you get a chance to review it tonight. Chapter 2, Mrs. Who, and we're going to meet another very important character, right? Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. I am Sparrow, and my behind the scenes really good buddy is Sharon, and we're just really excited to be with you this summer. All right, happy reading. Be awesome to each other, right? Go. Have a good day. Now, what do I click? I'm sure I click something very exciting. How about if I do this? Bye-bye.